All right. Thank you for joining us this evening on Reclaiming My Life. Tonight we have Brady Goodwin. He is the host of ichapod podcast on YouTube, where he talks about all sorts of things. And we're gonna talk to him tonight and get to know him a little bit. How you doing, Brady?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for inviting me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate you for being here with us tonight. And I want to talk about your book tonight and just, anything that we can get into tonight.
Okay.
Um, so I did download your book, Let There Be Gaslight.
Mm,
And I wanted to, before we get into that, I really wanted to talk a little bit about your story because I actually don't know your story.
okay.
I know that you used to be in the Christian rap scene,
Hmm.
and my husband and I also were into the Christian rap. And, we actually even have a studio here in our home, and he's the engineer. He does, all the recording and everything, and he's actually still a Christian and he still makes music and whatnot. And that's kind of one of the things that I miss about no longer being a believer is the making the music. That's one of the things that I
Mm.
really enjoyed that I'm not a part of anymore. But tell us a little bit about how you tell us about how you your beliefs in the beginning, like did you grow up in the church, or tell us about that.
Yeah, so yes and no. I grew up in two places. I grew up in the streets of Philadelphia, but on
Mhm.
the weekends, I was in church on Fridays at youth group and Saturdays at youth choir rehearsal and Sundays in church. And for most of my childhood, church was just another social setting. So I had, the block was one social setting, school was another, and then church was another.
Mhm.
And the circles were quite concentric because I had a few friends who we went to the same school and lived in the same neighborhood and traveled 40 minutes across town to go to the same church. Um, but somewhere around age 15, 16, um, I was I was I was about to use the spiritual language. So I was led to start reading the Bible. But just situations happen where uh, well, I guess I'll tell you the situation. The youth pastor of the church asked me to lead the following Friday night youth service, the song portion.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, I thought that would be a good time for me to kind of up my game with the church crowd and, preach a little mini sermonette or have some kind of analogy that would make them go, oh, he's deep.
Yeah.
And if I could do that, I'd get even more juice with the church girls or whatever. Um, so I made like a little deal in my head. I was like, okay, so this week, I think I was making a deal with God in my mind. Like, okay, if I don't curse, if I don't cut school, if I don't sleep with any girls this week, if I don't get into any fights, then God, you gotta make it. Next Friday night when I lead this song service, you gotta make that like extra spiritual. That way I can get
Yeah.
more girls. And so,
You
yeah,
that was your deal with God.
that
That's
was my
so
deal.
okay.
But the way I used to tell the story was I used to say, and that's how God got me. Because what happened was I went through the week, no cursing, no fighting, no cutting class, none of that. And then the day before the youth service, I said, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be reading the Bible because my plan was to read the Bible during the week so that I can get something deep to say.
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, I got to do my part and then God will do his part.
Mhm.
And Thursday came. I said, oh, I didn't read the Bible. So I ran, opened up my Bible, plopped it open to the middle, ended up reading Psalm 90, verses 1 and 2. And just those two verses, it really made an impression upon me. And I saw the concept of God like I had never seen it before.
Yeah.
So Psalm 90, verses 1 and 2 says, it's supposedly a psalm of Moses. And it says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations, even before the mountains were born, before you brought forth the earth and the world. from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. And when I just, those words from everlasting to everlasting, you are God, it just made me think about eternity. I had never thought
Mhm.
about eternity before. And the verse presented God as the one who basically, outlasts everlasting.
Mhm.
I just found
Mhm.
myself sitting on my bed looking up like, who are you? Like, how could you not have a beginning and not have an end?
Yeah.
I'd never contemplated those ideas before. And that changed the trajectory of my life because I began to seek more of those kind of verses and wanting to get to know the God that this book was talking about. I stopped cursing permanently, started practicing celibacy, and everything changed. Started making the honor
Wow.
roll from
Yeah.
straight F's and D's to A's and B's. Um, Left my friend group alone because I didn't want to get dragged back down into cutting class and
Mhm.
all that.
Mhm.
And then at some point, I met another guy um, who was just as committed to God as a teen as I was, but he was a rapper. And I didn't know that you could put those two things together. So then I started doing that with him.
Yeah.
And the trajectory of my life changed again, where now I became this Christian rap guy. But it was pure, unadulterated zeal, passion, belief. Like I believed the Bible totally.
Mhm.
Spent the next 25, 30 years of my life learning more about the Christian worldview.
Yeah.
Um, Not learning about it like, oh, that's what they believe. Like, no, this is what I believe. This is who I am.
Right.
My
Mhm.
identity, my worth, my hopes, uh, my expectations for this life and the afterlife. Everything was wrapped up in what this book said, and I believe that God led me, and God was guiding me, and God was for me, and um, everything that the Bible teaches.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a believer of it and a teacher of it
Mhm.
until it all fell apart.
So this started. That was when you say you were 15 when
About
you
16, 15,
16.
16, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So how did that event go that Friday night? Was it
I don't
everything
even
you wanted it to be?
remember, to
You
be
don't
honest. I
remember?
don't even remember
Yeah.
because once I read that passage of scripture and everything changed, like it was no longer about this
Getting the
transactional,
girls.
if
Yeah.
I do this, God, you got to do that. I just
Mhm.
started seeking the being that this book was talking about, and everything else is
Mhm.
paled in comparison.
Mhm. So it was your family very religious? Your mother, your
My mother
parents, or?
was, my dad
Mhm.
was not. My sisters, both my sisters are atheists now. But the older one, I didn't know this because she was 5, 6 years older than me.
Mhm.
But while I was going through what I was going through, she was off in college, an evangelist, discipling people, and doing her own God thing. I had no idea.
Wow. Wow.
Um, but as far as I knew, my mother and all her sisters, they were religious.
Mhm.
My generation, me, my sisters, my cousins, all of us, none of us were
Mhm.
until I had my moment.
Yeah. So how long were you how long was it before you had your deconversion or you started deconstructing or?
So that was age 15, 16, all the way until about age 40.
Mhm.
So 25 years.
Mhm. How long
Yeah.
were you into the music, the Christian rap scene? How long were you in that?
So if that was 25 years that I was into it, the last 5 years I was not in the music as much. So
Mhm.
about 20 years
Wow.
from age 16 to about 35.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what happened then? What turned you around? What happened?
Um, well, once again, more seeking God led to questioning God. So
Mhm.
somewhere around 2011, I went to seminary because I was planning a career where I was going to sort of set myself up as an urban missionary. I had been an urban missionary my entire life since 16 all the way up to 40.
Mhm.
But at that point, around age 40, I was no longer doing the music. I had gone into education. So I was teaching in public schools, teaching colleges, secular and Christian colleges.
Mhm.
adjunct here, part-time here. Just I had about 4 different teaching jobs that I was doing, 4 different schools.
Mhm.
But I knew that in the academic space, I was going to run into challenges for my faith.
Mhm.
So even though I had done Bible college in the 2000s, I felt like I needed to know the original languages that the Bible was written in, and I needed a firmer foundation in apologetics on an academic level. So I went to a seminary that was set up to do that, Westminster Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
And while there, I don't even know if I could say it was one thing. There were several things that I just kept running into that made me say, I don't know if I could, I don't know if I could stand behind that. Um,
Mhm.
if I ask a question, how do we deal with this issue? How do we deal with, I don't know, whether it be something like Paul seemingly making the Old Testament say things that it doesn't seem like it's saying.
Mhm.
And the justification that came from the professors were basically the Holy Spirit empowered him to see things that we can't go and do that. We can't go and say, when this writer said this, here's what he meant. But Paul was able to do that. And the New Testament writers, they were able to do that. We can't.
Yeah.
I didn't buy that. And because, like I said, I was there to get better equipped to deal with the
Mhm.
challenges my faith was going to meet in academia.
Mhm.
And as they're giving me these responses, I'm like, I couldn't tell that to an unbelieving coworker, and I don't even know
Right.
if I would accept that myself. Like, I don't like that response.
Mhm.
And so somewhere in there, one of my professors gave us an assignment. There was a list of books that we could read and review and critique. And one of them was from a former Westminster professor, somebody who used to teach there that they let go because
Mhm.
he had been getting, I guess, too liberal for their liking. So I'm like, okay, I'll read his book. And I planned to like read it and just eviscerate it, tear it to shreds.
Mhm.
And I kind of did. No, not kind of. I did. There's a guy by the name of Peter Enns wrote a book called The Evolution of Adam. And he was talking as if evolution is true. I didn't believe it at the time. I had never studied it from anybody who actually believed it. I had only studied it from creationists.
Right. Right.
So I was very conditioned to dismiss it out of hand.
Mhm.
So this professor, this former professor of Westminster, wrote this book where he's saying, so we now know that evolution from common descent with the great apes is true, and therefore Adam and Eve cannot be historical. And so he says, so Paul was wrong about through one man, sin came into the world, and through sin, death. And then he went on to say, but we still see the reality of sin and death in our world. So Jesus, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ is still a need. Now, I've been an evangelist for 30 years, and I'm
Mhm.
sitting there like, no, bro, like once you undo through one man, sin and death came into the world, once you
Yeah.
undo that,
Right.
you're not going to have me sitting here talking about we still need Jesus. Like, no, because one of the things I had a song, right? The chorus from one of my old songs says, I got good news, I got bad news. Now, which news you want first? If I give you the good news without the bad news, that don't grab you. That don't work. So you got to get the bad news first before you get the good
Mhm.
news. Well, what you've just done, Peter Enns, is you've taken away the bad news.
Yeah. You eliminated that. So
All right. So why do
yeah.
it's not good? Matter of fact, I used to say this. I used to say when I was an evangelist, you know, if I told you that this man right here carried my mother out the house, would that be good news? You'd be like, no, it's weird. Why is he carrying your mom? If I say the house is on fire, you're like, oh, he's a hero, right?
Yeah.
You got to have bad news in order for somebody to get the good news. If you
Yeah.
take away the sin and death, then Jesus' death on the cross is just a dude dying on the cross. I don't know why we need that.
Right.
So I didn't put all that together at the time. I just said,
Mhm.
okay, Peter, and you're one, I don't think you're right about evolution, but two, if you are, there's no need for Jesus. So I dismissed it. I critiqued it harshly. And here's what actually made things click. because I bragged about the way I dismantled his book in my review
Mm-hmm.
to another professor, the Hebrew language professor, biblical Hebrew professor. I bragged about it to him. And rather than pat me on the back like, attaboy, good job, he said, oh, well, Pete's still a good friend of mine. We just had dinner last night. And then he said, here are the books that influenced him to think the way he thinks. When you get a chance, maybe you should check them out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not supposed to be saying that. You're supposed to be congratulating me, not telling me to go read what Peter Enns read that influenced him to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
That made me say, okay, so is this your safe way of saying Peter Enns is right? Like, you can't come out and say it because they'd fire you too.
Right.
But you're saying it without saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So from that moment on, I sat in all my classes and I heard everything that they were saying with two minds. What if Peter Enns is right and evolution is a fact? And what if Peter Enns is wrong, like I think? And everything that they're saying and everything that I'm reading, I'm like, damn, if something else besides what Genesis 1-3 says, if something else is true, then that would explain so much about why we're having to do all these things to bend over backwards to reconcile this passage with that passage and this.
Yeah. All the gymnastics.
It would explain so much. And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But what I do like is I like understanding. I like knowing things. I want to know what's real, what's true.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't shake it. I said, damn, this would explain so much.
Yeah.
That desire to want to know and to not have to, like you say, do the gymnastics. At some point, I just had to say, so what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Are you going to spend the rest of your life being a publicist, a PR, correspondent for this God and this book with all these flaws and problems?
Yeah.
Or are you going to say, you know what? That's irreconcilable. And I was wrong. I was wrong for 30 years.
Yeah. And
And
that's hard.
I didn't jump to that immediately because it is hard.
Yeah.
I told myself, shut up and don't think that again. Don't think. And I buried it down. The Bible says, Romans 1 says, men are suppressing the knowledge of the truth. I was suppressing, I started suppressing the knowledge of the truth that the Bible can't be true. I thought that thought and then I suppressed it for 6 years and tried to
6
pretend.
years.
I tried to pretend that my foundation didn't crack. So from 2015 to 2021, I lived a double life, a depressed life, until I finally said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's rough. And, people like us that need to know the truth at all costs, we continue to dig and look and want to know what's real and what's not. But then there are a lot of people that are just okay with just keeping their head in the sand and just not questioning, and I think that's just a fear thing. Like they're afraid if I question and and what if I'm wrong? There's so many people say, well, I'd rather be wrong. And what if I am, what am I trying to say? If they
I
would
know what you're saying.
rather
Yeah.
continue to
I'd
believe
rather,
it.
right. It's what do they call that? It's the oh my God, why is it escaping me right now? But basically, if I'm wrong, I don't lose anything.
Right.
But if I'm right, I gain everything. That's the Christian
Right.
thought,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't want to live like that
Yeah.
because my life, I feel so much freer
Mm,
now than I have in all these 20 years.
mm,
I feel so much freer now, and I love it here.
yeah.
I had a Christian, one of my friends who's a pastor, and he said something on Facebook about if you're not following your pastor, such and such something. And I said, well, I, I don't have a pastor to follow. And he said, well, I feel sorry for you. I said, don't feel sorry for me because I'm
Mm.
good.
Yeah.
Everything is great over here.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, like I said, I spent those 6 years, and in those 6 years, I didn't know about the online skeptic, online atheist community. I didn't know about,
Yeah.
all the shows that podcasts I started watching, like, oh yeah, that's confirmation. So it was
Mhm.
lonely, it was dark.
Yeah.
And I could only imagine if I had a family in tow, like I'm single with no kids. So
Mhm.
even when I was going through that dark period, it was rough, but I can only imagine how much rougher it would be if I had a family in tow,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It can be challenging,
Mhm.
especially with the spouse.
Yeah.
There's been some challenges, but
Mm,
you know, but yeah, I thankfully have not had to go through this by myself.
mm,
My son, you know, who we used to tell him when he was younger he was going to grow up and be a preacher, which
mm,
he is a great speaker.
right.
He's a good teacher and a speaker, so we weren't all the way wrong.
Mhm.
But you know, we had him pegged as being a pastor one day, but he kind of helped me get here,
Mm,
and he didn't. I don't know. We just had a conversation one day, and you know he hadn't been he went away to college and came
mhm,
back and everything, and he wasn't talking to me about any of the things that he was learning. And one day I
mm,
just asked, and when I asked, we started talking about it, and you know, it was good conversation. He
mhm,
gave me some information and some of the things that he was watching,
mm,
and I started watching, and I've got a couple of other family members as well that
wow.
I don't really talk about because they
Mhm,
don't want me to talk about. But so
mhm.
I'm not by myself.
Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah.
I'm just the only vocal one.
Mm.
My
Yeah.
son says he's going to get on the podcast one day, but he's not quiet about it. He just
Mhm.
doesn't talk about it.
Right.
He doesn't share,
Yeah.
unless he's in the company of people that he knows he can comfortably share. But yeah.
Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if I had just kept my mouth shut, if I just ceased believing and just, you know,
Hmm.
went to be a regular person, not doing a podcast, not writing a book.
Yeah.
Um, I envy people who can walk away and not feel like
Yeah.
they have to say anything. But
Yeah.
I had been so vocal as a believer. I'm responsible for so many people
Hmm.
believing and defending the faith, the Christian faith.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like I owed it to people to be as vocal, at least for a time,
Hmm.
in my unbelief as I was in my belief.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it is. I had someone tell me, that I was brave for speaking out and, not having being deconverted that long ago, and
Mhm.
being out here speaking the way I am. And I said, well, didn't I do that when I was a believer?
Mm.
Wasn't I going to the jail doing jail ministry? Wasn't I making this music and
Yep.
organizing concerts and events in the community, to share? And wasn't I doing all that then? Like, that's
Mm.
who I am. That's
Mm.
who I am. I can't.
Yeah.
That didn't change. It's just the
I
message is
respect
different.
those who there are a few people who said, "You know what? I can't be mad that you're doing this now because this is what you were doing as a believer. You're the same person. Your
Yeah,
message is just different."
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. That's absolutely what it is. I'll be glad when I can get back into the music one day.
Mm.
Hopefully that's in the future
I
somehow,
don't even
some
know if
way
I
or another.
can.
Really?
People are asking me. So there's a song that'll be coming out soon. A
I
woman.
listened to the clip and I
Oh, okay.
commented
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, yeah. So that's a very diced up, poor reference version of the clip, but it's a great song.
Yeah.
I hadn't written a verse in years, and she asked me, and I was like, just send it to me. I'll see. Thinking in my mind, I was going to have to turn her down. When I
Mhm.
heard the song, like when you hear it, it's going to resonate with
Yeah.
you. When you hear
Yeah.
the whole song.
Yeah.
And when I heard it, I said, I've got to be a part of this.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I think I maybe wrote one, maybe 8-bar verse for my podcast early on.
Mhm.
Other than that, it's been the hardest thing for me to write rhymes.
Yeah.
One, because I think maybe I'm just out of practice and the culture of what the music is doing has changed so much.
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
know if the listeners' ears are trained for what I do because things have shifted so much.
Yeah.
But also what holds me back is for me, like I didn't have a pre-Christian rap career. So my
Yeah.
pen only got nice as a Christian.
Yeah.
And so writing verses is sort of like married to the faith that I
Mhm.
don't hold anymore. So I don't even know. Like I said, I did it for this woman who asked me. I don't know how much of that I have because
Mhm.
faith and lyricism were tied so tightly for
Mhm.
me. So that's what
And
holds me back a lot. I don't
yeah,
know, like what is it that holds you back from writing these days?
'cause I mean, that's the thing. I'm not a writer. I'm a
Okay.
singer. I'm not a writer. So I only
Ah,
sang what my husband wrote.
okay.
He's the writer. And and what you're saying about your writing and being a Christian went together, and
Mhm,
how it'll come back to you over time. It's just because I remember, and I don't want to keep bringing up my husband because I really
mhm,
don't talk to him about him much on the podcast, but he when he was a rapper before Christianity.
mhm,
So when he went from that to becoming a Christian, he struggled with writing, being able to write without using cuss words and things like that.
mhm.
He struggled with that in the beginning, but eventually it came. And so like for you, if doing music and writing is what you want to do, over time, if you do it over time, it'll come. It'll come back.
I hope you're right.
Yeah,
It's
it
been
will.
it's been going it's going on 4 years of
Hmm.
me publicly embracing my unbelief. There were a few years even before I publicly embraced it that I knew I was gone, but I think I was
Yeah,
still trying to give God a chance. Like you could bring me back. I'm not so far gone. Even
yeah,
though I was living wild as hell. I was still going to church on Sundays and still trying to just be close enough to like just give God a chance to win me back.
yeah.
But so all in all, it's really more like 4 years that I've been publicly out,
Hmm.
10 years, well, at least 9 years that I've been wrestling and deconstructing little by little.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, all that to say, if it does come back, it probably will take some considerable effort for me to like just sit down and focus on trying to put it together. But I don't have the passion for it. I don't have the zeal for it.
Yeah.
Um, I think the podcast too, and writing the book, um, for me, it was an outlet.
Mhm.
And at one time, it was the best outlet. The kinds of
Right.
people that I wanted to speak to
Mhm.
listen to rap music, and that was the best way to get the message to them. Once I
Yeah.
started teaching in the schools and then writing books and then now podcasts and all that, once I realized I had other outlets, it was almost
Mhm.
like I didn't need rap anymore.
I
So I think
understand that.
there's a few different things that factor into why my heart just doesn't beat for it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I understand that. Yeah, I understand that. And like I said, I'm not a writer, but I do miss singing. I miss singing in the
Mhm.
choir. I miss singing in church.
Mm.
I miss, those are things that I enjoy doing.
There's secular
Um,
choirs you can join.
yeah, I interviewed Mandisa Thomas, and
Okay.
she told me to do fill out the form and stuff to audition
Mhm.
for that choir, but they're practicing Wisconsin.
Mm.
Like, I'm in Kentucky.
I mean, I'm sure there's secular choirs in
I
your
don't
area, like just,
uh, I don't know about that.
no?
I'm I don't know. I don't know. I
Okay.
mean, like you said, I have a lot on my plate, so it's not
Mhm.
something that I've really tried to look for.
Gotcha.
It's not really probably anything I have time for right now. At
Mhm.
some point, maybe, um, but it's not real important right now.
Gotcha.
But I think for more than anything, I miss doing it, with my husband more than
Mm.
anything. So let's talk about your book. Um,
Ah.
so what motivated you to write the book?
So the book, Let There Be Gaslight. I don't know if the light's gonna let you see it. Uh,
Yeah,
Too bright.
yeah, it's a little too
So,
bright. Yeah.
yeah. There's not much on the cover other than the words, Let There Be Gaslight. What motivated me to write the book was so I was in touch with my professors um, as I began to get more vocal. So 2021, I started doing the research because I knew I didn't believe anymore. I just couldn't explain it. I hadn't studied evolution. I still wasn't sure whether it was true. Um, but 2021, I started doing the research. I started finding out why is it that Christians even are starting to, say, hey, there's something here with this evolution thing. And so, um, as I started reading this, and then I start reading other, like I'm realizing how many different Christians are speaking to the issue and saying enough to sort of like they won't just come out and fully endorse it because they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few that can with caveats, but most of them are just saying we need to rethink Genesis 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we need to rethink it because there's enough evidence, even without science and evolution, there's enough evidence from the ancient Near East to show these stories in early Genesis are not original. These stories in early Genesis, at most, are theological polemics. It's
Mm-hmm.
a group of people hearing what the others cultures are saying, and they're saying, "Oh, well, that's how you guys are saying it all started. Your God did what? Okay. Well, then our God, we got to one up you guys, right? Okay, so then our God did that, but he did it this way. But you use so much of their story,
Yeah.
and then you make this little tweak to show how your God was better at it.
Yeah.
But if you're taking their story just to give your God a leg up, you're still there's no truth to it.
Yeah.
You may believe your God is better, but you're still borrowing their story to tell your story. And
Mm-hmm.
so as Christians are admitting, like, yeah, this isn't original. Yeah, we probably have to take this more figuratively. I started just seeing the way Christian leaders, Old Testament scholars, apologists, um, even Christian scientists, some of them, the way that they were. I always hesitate when I say this because I don't want to just outright say they're lying to people,
Yeah.
but it really felt like they were trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. Like, you saw that evolution is true, but you can't say it. So you're going to now say something that you kind of give a nod to the science,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to give a bigger nod to the Bible. And so you're going to try to spin it. And the more I saw the spin, the more I just said, who's going to tell them? Who's going to tell all these believers
Yeah.
the truth? That you can't take this literally. And if you can't take this literally, it destroys what Paul is saying in Romans 5.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing becomes who's going to tell them? And if the Christian leaders who telling them are telling them, but they're muzzling their mouth, they're not saying it with their chest,
Yeah.
it's going to allow people to continue to go around just lying. And so what motivated me to write the book was, I said, if this is my dying breath, I've got to tell people they're lying to you. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
the title is Let There Be Gaslight. They're gaslighting you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to spell it out for you. At least you can't say no one tried to tell you. I'm going to try to tell you. And so I
Mm-hmm.
took all the Christian leaders, the Old Testament scholars, the scientists, the apologists. I read all their literature, all their books, several books from some, all of them. And I compiled them into this book where I'm sort of using their words to make them have a conversation with each other,
Yeah.
showing how they disagree and showing, but here's where they do agree. They are telling you can't take Genesis literal. And if you can't take it literal, why are you so sure that this is the word of God? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of where the book came from, and that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So I enjoyed it very much, and I feel like I'm still learning a lot myself, and that's why I
Mm,
watch a lot of the atheist TikToks and whatnot,
mhm.
because they're so knowledgeable, because atheists know way more about the Bible than Christians do.
Especially if they're atheists who used to be Christians.
Yes,
I do find some
absolutely.
atheists who they were
Uh,
never Christians,
right. They
and
don't
so
care.
sometimes when they talk about the Bible, say, "Nah, we didn't take that way." But
Yeah.
yeah, I get you.
Yeah, I have a friend that I go live with sometimes, and he hasn't he doesn't know anything much about the Bible at all, because he was never religious and he never had any use for it. So
Mm,
he doesn't have a lot of knowledge about it, because it wasn't a part of his upbringing or anything. So But yeah, atheists that used to be Christians,
Mhm.
they are very knowledgeable, and
Yeah.
I enjoy learning. I've got tons of audiobooks
Mhm.
and physical books that I'm
Mhm.
reading from people who have, you know, some who have deconverted, or just some that just have a lot of knowledge about the, you know, history and whatnot, religious history and things. So I really enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so what else did I want to ask you? What do you have next? What are you coming up with next? Besides, oh, I know what I wanted to tell you. I really enjoyed that you and Derek, when you were talking about young Don, when you all
Oh, yeah,
were
yeah,
discussing
yeah.
that. Wasn't that like 5 hours? And I listened to the whole thing. Usually, I very rarely watch YouTube videos because I'm usually doing something else. I'm always busy, but while I'm
Mhm.
driving or riding or whatever I'm doing, I'm listening, and I listened to that whole thing. That was
Yeah.
really, and I don't even know Young Don. I've never heard of him
I'd
before
never heard of him
that,
before that either.
but that
Yeah.
was so good. Like just his just the way he explains things and the things that he
Mhm.
went through. It was so good.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
This is why I love these stories, man. Like, I do this series, Life After Faith, because I'm like, you never know how sharing your story will speak to somebody else and make them say, I know what that's like. I couldn't put that in words, but the way you just, and like you said, the way he was wording things,
Yeah.
he was very clairvoyant, very, uh, I don't even know if I paid as much attention to my process as he did.
Yeah.
And the way he
Yeah.
was able to articulate, here's why I was doing what I was doing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I know several people who hear his story and just, they immediately comment on how gullible he was or how whatever. But it's like, no,
Yeah.
I meant when I said it, and when me and Derek were talking about it, we were reacting to it. Like, he did in 3 short years what some of us do in 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was trying to believe the right thing.
Mhm. Mhm. And he was so honest.
Yeah,
He was just so honest, and yeah, it was good. I really
yeah,
enjoyed that.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So, tell me more about the life after faith that you do on your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested, I'd like to interview you. It's basically stories of people who they were in faith and now they're not. So now it's like,
Yeah.
how did you come to the faith? And one of the
Hmm.
things I end up doing a lot on the podcast, I don't know if I should, but I do because it's sort of, I think it's a worthwhile thing. I sort of gatekeep a little bit. Um, I try to push people to demonstrate that they actually were Christians.
Yeah.
Because when I was a Christian, it wasn't just enough for someone to say they were a Christian. There's a
Hmm.
story in the book of Acts, Aquila and Priscilla, where they come across uh, who was it? Barnabas. They come across. Um, I forget. They come across somebody, and they ask
Hmm.
him like, "Have you received the Holy Spirit since you believe?" He says, "I didn't know that there was a Holy Spirit." They say, "Oh well, what did you believe?" And he says, "Oh well." He starts talking about John's gospel, and they're like, nah, bro. Like it's progressed since then. You gotta. This is where it's at."
Yeah.
And so it's like that. Even though I think it's all bunk, that
Hmm.
ethic still is strong in me of, well, what did you believe then? Because
Yeah.
if somebody tells me they deconverted, and then when I ask them what they believed, and that's not something that, like, if you were a Bible believing and discipled, well taught Christian, you would have known that that would not have equated salvation, like what you're saying you
Hmm.
believe. John's gospel, if you're, oh, it was Apollos. Um,
Hmm.
you would have known that that would not have equated salvation. And sometimes I run into people who they say they've deconverted, and then when they tell me what they believe, I'm like, mm, I would have evangelized you if I was still a Christian and you told me that that's what you believe.
Yeah.
And so on my Life After Faith episodes, I sort of push people to what did you believe? And then
Mhm.
once we get to the point of, okay, that's the gospel, you did believe that. And then
Yeah.
some people are wonky with it. Like once, if they have a hard time articulating it, I draw it out. And then it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, okay. As
Mhm.
long as you're
Mhm.
not saying no, I didn't believe that.
Right.
I still like, okay, you believed it, even though you couldn't articulate it.
Right.
Um,
Because
it's a little
there's a
more
lot
than
of cultural Christians. There are a lot of people just call
yes,
themselves Christian that did
yes.
not do all the things that we did in Christianity.
And I wonder if people know that they were just cultural Christians. Some people
Yeah.
don't know that that's what they were.
Yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
one of my desires is I would hate to give you the impression that, yeah, you were a believer and yeah, you did deconvert, and I celebrate that, only to have you run into somebody else who gives you the true gospel. And you're like, damn, I never believed that. And now you're back in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
let me save you the trouble. Let me let you know, here's the thing that you're saying you agreed to, but
Yeah.
let me lay it out for you. Now tell me if that's what you believe. Once you get there, then we can talk about your deconversion. So that's what we do on those episodes.
Mhm.
Most people, they don't need me to hold their hand and walk them through the gospel. They knew the gospel, they believed the gospel, they no longer
Mhm.
believe the gospel. And then we get to talk about why that is. And it's the interesting thing is not just because I don't always gatekeep. Sometimes I let people have it, like, okay, I would not have considered that gospel faith, but
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. So I'm not trying to really evangelize you. I just want you
Right, right.
to save you some time. But whatever you say you believe, okay, you no longer are there, fine. But the other thing that I like about it is it's not just what the differences of what people believed, the different slices and denominations of Christianity. It's also the different reasons why people deconvert. I don't think I've had
Mhm.
two people deconvert for the same reason. It's
Yeah.
always something different. And that's one of the things I'm like, wow, that did it for you? Like that wouldn't have done it for
Mhm.
me, but that did it for you? Wow. Um, you know, like I had one guy, Joshua Colwell. His deconversion started because he could not believe that an all-wise God would inspire a New Testament writer to write Romans chapter 13, saying that there is no power unless it comes from God. So all leaders, all rulers are in place. But it's like to give a ruler that kind of unprecedented, unchecked power, saying if you're a leader, you must be there because of God.
Mhm.
He could not see that as the wisdom of an all-wise God. And that led him to begin to deconstruct and
Yeah.
deconvert.
Yeah.
Like that would have never caused me to question anything, but it did it
Yeah.
for him.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and well, everybody has their reasons, and that's
Mhm.
why, what we do is so awesome because, we get to tell people's story, allow people to tell their stories
Yeah,
and help those that are out there that are questioning
yeah,
and help them to figure out what they really want to do.
yeah.
And because I tell people all the time, my podcast is not for Christians; it's for people who are already questioning. I'm not out here
Mm.
trying to get people to
Yeah,
deconvert. I'm not.
yeah,
That's not why I'm here.
yeah.
I mean, I tell people, I have a friend, and she's very Christian, and she calls me and we talk, and she doesn't hold it against me that I'm no longer a believer, and she still talks to me, and she still values
Mm.
my opinion, and
Mhm.
the things that she calls and asks me about, the encouragement that I give her, she still values that,
Hmm.
and and she knows I have the podcast, and I told her don't watch it. I don't want you to watch my podcast. You're
Wow.
happy with what you're doing and where you
Yeah.
are, and I don't want you to watch it.
Mm.
I've told people that don't do it. If you want to, go ahead, but you might not like what you see
Yeah,
because then
hey.
it's going to make you question.
Yeah, yeah. Buyer beware.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, but you asked what's
absolutely.
next. I think one of the things I've been waiting to do this for a while. Two things. I've been promising people that this was coming almost a year now. But
Hmm.
so there's a certificate program for religious trauma counseling. I've already paid for the course. I've got the materials almost 2 years
Hmm.
ago now. I just
Yeah.
have not taken the time to go through it. But I want to do that certification because since I came out with my, deconversion story, I've been sort of counseling people through.
Yeah.
Like I've got pastors who keep in touch with me because
Wow.
they're struggling or they don't even believe anymore. They're trying to figure out, are they doing something unethical by still being in the pulpit, no longer
Wow.
believing? And they're trying to figure out, like, can I do the humanitarian version of what I used to do, thinking it was a
Yeah.
spiritual? Um, but every day I'm either in my DMs or on the phone or face to face talking with somebody about the deconstruction process. And I'm
Mhm.
doing all that having not done any therapy
Mhm.
myself, having gone through this extremely life-changing event.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I'm going to do, not think, I'm going to do this religious trauma counseling course,
Mhm.
one for myself, and then use that to further help other people. So that's one of the
Yeah.
things that'll be next for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I'm
Yeah.
actually trying to work on a ebook, just like a
Mm,
little, just a small ebook about a healing from religious trauma.
mm, yep.
So yeah, because you know, my son always, says, when I say little things to people, because sometimes I do that. Sometimes I can just be, you know, and I say little things, and my son says, leave people alone because, what if they do leave and they don't know, everybody's not like you.
Mm,
They leave and then they don't know what to do next, and
mm.
and then and then that's traumatic,
Yeah,
and then they
yeah.
don't know where to go from there. And so he's just like, just leave people alone.
Oh, yeah. There's a sense in which I probably should have listened to that kind of, advice, but I was too hard-headed for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do good. I try not to be too they get, somebody will comment something on Facebook and I'll be in a comment just making some little remark or something. And my kids are just like, will you just stop?
Yeah. But I mean, life is for the living, man. If this is what makes you, I get a kick out of it. You know what I mean? Like, I like the engagement. I like the interaction.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a sociologist at heart, so I want to see what happens when people get a hold of this
Hmm.
information and how it changes things, how
Yeah.
society could actually change. I'm interested in all of that.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't apologize for it.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not knocking on anybody's door, making them listen. I
Right.
told
Right.
people in my deconversion video, I say, hey, look, you can be a fly on the wall, you can engage in the conversation, or you can block me if you don't want to be,
Yeah.
bothered with any of this. But I'm going to be speaking out. You do what you're going
Right.
to do about that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still not very vocal on my Facebook page.
Mhm.
I've posted some little veiled things on there here and there,
So can I
but
ask you, because you might be the inverse of me, why be so active on TikTok and not on Facebook?
there are still a whole lot of Facebook people, that are my friends that were church people, that were my church
Mhm.
family, and people still, even though I have a whole podcast and my TikTok, there's still a lot of people that still don't know. I'm the
Mm.
kind of person that people would stop me in the grocery store and say, I got this going on. Will you pray for me?
Mm.
And I'm in a very small community. So there are still people. I mean, it was somebody a couple of days ago that I was talking to, and they were saying, I got, such and such is going on, just keep me in your prayers, it's just like, okay, so so
So
there are
what would you
still
do if somebody stopped you in the supermarket tomorrow and said, "Hey, can you pray for me?" What would you do?
like on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, it's usually not like a on the spot thing. It's just like a keep me in your prayers, or
Alright.
later tonight, when
But
you're
I'm
in your
curious
prayer
now, like, what
closet.
what what would you do?
I depending on who it was, honestly, if it's somebody that I'm not really close to, or
Mm,
somebody that just a random person that just kind of knows me, um, I would just probably nod my head and say, "Oh, okay." But
mm,
if it's but if it's somebody that's, that's kind of closer to me and, or that I probably would be like, I don't do that anymore, right?
Mm.
you know, but that sparks a whole conversation. It's
Yeah.
easier just to nod and say, okay, than to be like, what?
Gotcha. Mm, mm,
Like, I
mm.
don't do that because then that sparks a whole conversation. And then it's a whole thing of, well, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray that you get your faith back. And, I don't, it's just
Mm.
in the grocery store, that's too much. You
Yeah.
know, that's too much in the grocery store. It's not that I don't care who knows.
Mhm.
Um, but I also am not going to have that conversation in the grocery store. But,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've dropped little hints, to people here and there,
Mhm.
but Facebook is just that's just kind of too much out there for me. Like,
Okay.
um,
Well, then I
you
can't do
know,
a life after faith episode with you because if that's the case, you might then people may find out that you don't want to find out.
it's, it's, I mean, it's okay. And like I
Mm.
said, my husband, he's knows that people know
Mm.
people are, it's kind of a process, like a slow process, of just letting people find out,
Got you. Yep.
gradually, not just
And
just out there in your face.
that communicates that you're not out to take anybody out of the faith because you're not out there proselytizing. You're just if they find
Right.
out just sort of naturally, sort of by osmosis, that
Yeah.
almost gives you more credibility. Like, oh, she didn't say it. We just know now, as
Mhm.
opposed to you being vocal about it. And
Yeah.
see, I'm the reverse. I'm not on TikTok, even though I'm about to start getting on there.
Mhm.
I shied away from doing what I do on Instagram and TikTok because it's so impersonal. I
Mhm.
like Facebook better because it is personal. And
Yeah.
I do want those people that all know me as fanatic, that all know me as a Christian. I do want them to know I'm not there
Yeah.
anymore. But TikTok, Instagram, no one's using their real names. You don't know who these people
Mhm.
are. Like, I don't want to be arguing with people. I don't even know you. I don't care what you think about what
Right.
I just posted. So
Yeah.
I haven't done anything on TikTok, but I feel like people have told me I need to be on there if I'm going to
Yeah.
be doing what I'm doing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if it comes up, we can have a whole conversation about it.
mhm.
But I recently, last year, I stepped down. Just last year, I stepped down from being the president of a Christian organization.
Mm,
And part of the reason I stepped down is because I didn't want what I was doing to reflect on them.
yeah.
But I'm still very much involved with them. I'm
Mhm,
still involved. I still help. I still do
mhm,
what I was doing before. I'm just not the president anymore.
mm,
So, I take that into consideration as well. So
yeah.
I'm not trying to traumatize anybody and I'm not trying to upset the community. I'm in when I say small community, I mean small community, like 900 something people in,
Gotcha.
in, in this town where I live.
Mm,
And, I just, and, you know, I just, I tell people if you really want to know what's going on with me, go watch the podcast. You
mm,
know, go watch it. If you want to know, go watch it. But
okay.
I'm not trying to deconvert you. I'm not trying
Mm,
to, but this is who I am. I'm not ashamed of it. But I do take, people's feelings into consideration. And I've been making little comments and whatnot on Facebook
mhm.
here and there. I made a comment the other week. I guess when I was talking about the Marvin Sapp thing, you know.
Yeah.
So I
That
posted something about that, and
right.
I said, if I was something about if I was still a believer, such and
Mm.
such. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
then, I made some comments, and I had a preacher friend who is also a rapper that used to come and perform in some of the concerts that I organized, made this big long comment underneath that post, and he said, you can delete this if you want to, but and he started giving me all this scripture and this and that, whatever.
That was
And
on
I
your
said, I'm not.
page?
Yeah, yeah. I said, I'm not going to delete your comment. I said, because you have a right to your opinion, just like I do. I said, so I'm
Mhm,
not going to delete your comment. I said, but I don't remember the exacts, but
mhm,
I came back with my rebuttal, and then I said, and that's all I'm gonna say. I said, because I
mhm,
don't debate.
mhm,
I don't do that. I said,
mm,
but this is how I feel about what you said. What you're
mhm,
saying. this is my take on that. And then I said, no,
Mm,
that's all I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna leave it alone. And he
yeah.
came back and said, thank you for your gracious. I appreciate your gracious response, and that was the end of it. So it's out there. Like, just I'm
Yeah.
just inching my way out there, just little by little.
That's what's up. Hey, we need as
I don't
many
post
people
links.
speaking up as we can possibly get, especially
Yeah,
black and brown faces, because as I'm sure you know, the white atheist, skeptic, counter apologist,
yeah,
deconversion, deconstructing, the white space is filled with people. Black and brown folk, not a lot of us,
yeah.
not
And
enough
not a
of us.
lot of women.
I didn't even think about that.
It's not, because all these interviews I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
I have only a handful. I don't have very many women on here.
Mm.
I don't, and maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. But
No, I actually think you're right. I think you're right.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm. So yeah, I have questions for you, but this is not my interview of you, so I gotta fight the urge to ask questions. But yeah, I hear you.
yeah, but yeah. I mean, I'd be happy to talk with you. I'm like I said, I'm coming out little by little. I'm just
Okay.
not jumping off the porch. I'm just kind of easing my way off the porch.
Well, you let me know when you think you're ready to do something like a life after faith on my
Okay,
channel. I will jump at the chance. You just let me know.
okay. I will. I will. Do you have any words for anybody who is going through a deconstruction process right now?
Um, so many words, but if I had to narrow it down, I would say trust your gut. Um, that part of you that says this is not true. This can't be true. It's probably not true. You think about, the fact that you, out of all the people in all the world and all the religions and all the cultures, you happen to have found the right one. Well, what are the chances of that? And why would a God allow you to find the right one? And then all these other people in Asia, people in India, people in Africa, people in Australia, for whatever reason, this God who's omnipresent and wants to be known is trusting his good news, the good news that all men need. He's trusting humans to slowly, ever so painstakingly, over centuries, over millennia, to get the word around the globe. Is that what God is doing? Like, this probably isn't true. No God would do something like that. Leave the mass of humanity
Yeah.
hung out to dry until you get a chance to preach the gospel to them. And countless billions of them dying before that ever happens. Something in you is telling you this is probably not true. I know this isn't true. I would say trust your gut. And don't, I can't tell you not to trust it, but I can tell you to suspect that part of you that says, I can't think these thoughts. This is sacrilegious. This is
Yeah.
blasphemous. God's going to get me. A dark cloud is going to, Diane's talking about reclaiming her faith, talking about, the way that her life is now. She said, I'm good over here. Don't feel sorry for me. I haven't interviewed anybody who left the faith who said, damn, I regret this. Everyone who's repossessed their faith, who said this doesn't warrant my belief. There's not evidence for that. There's no good evidence for this. These are claims. I don't know who wrote this stuff. These are just claims, and the claims are unbelievable. Anybody who's ever got that to that point and they repossessed their faith from this, haven't heard one single person say, man, I regret that. Now, I mean, they do say, I miss the community. It's lonely. So you do got to
Yeah.
wrestle with that. But in terms of reclaiming your life, getting you back, you don't know how many times I've said in my deconstruction, I got my me back.
Hmm.
I got my me back.
Yes.
Um, chase that feeling.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It makes me want. You make me want to say the doors of the church are open.
Well, the doors of the church are open. Run out as fast as you can. So, Yeah.
But yeah, that was good. That was really good. Good word for everyone who may be questioning and struggling and fearful, because
Mm,
it's all about fear. That's what it's
yeah.
all about fear. Just being afraid. What if I leave and what if I'm wrong?
Mm,
And I'm gonna burn for
yeah.
eternity. And
Pascal's wager. That's what it is. I was trying to think of the name earlier.
yeah, I should have thought about it because me and my philosopher friend, the one that I said who's never been in religion,
Mm,
literally just did a live on Pascal's wager last week. We
okay.
did a TikTok live
Mm,
about Pascal's wager
mm,
last week.
nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
But I thank you for taking the time to talk
It
with
was a
me.
pleasure. It was a pleasure. I look
Mm,
forward to hearing from you and seeing you in chats and all that good stuff.
yeah,
Anytime you wanna flex a little bit, feel free to come by my Facebook page and just, chime in.
I definitely will. I
For
definitely
sure.
will. I'm like I said, I'm most of the time I'm just listening. I don't have a lot of time to get. A lot of times when I'm listening to the lives
Mhm.
and the videos and whatnot, I'm head, I'm driving or I'm doing something, so
Gotcha.
I don't respond a lot. I don't
Yep. I
interact a
get it.
lot because I'm always on the move.
I get it.
But I definitely will. I comment every now and then. I like
Yeah.
some of your stuff and I comment here and there. And yeah,
Good stuff.
uh,
Hey, well, it's great to talk with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
thank you.